Hello, my name is Dr. Kent Norberg, and I am from Southeastern Louisiana University. I'd like to welcome you to a discussion of applications of artificial intelligence in achieving development goals. So, improving economic development has been a long-term project of many governments and NGOs. And in the last 2 decades, two major international efforts have taken place. The first was the United Nations Millennial Development Goals, the MDGs, developed in 2000, and its follow-up, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG, established in 2015. In looking at these goals, it is clear that new technologies, and in particular artificial intelligence, has a role to play. So first off, let's talk about what do we mean by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, or AI, systems are designed to use machine learning and data analytics in intelligent decision making. Importantly, these systems are capable of learning and adapting given new ideas and new information. So, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, are an ambitious set of goals, 17 of them in fact. And while artificial intelligence does not yet seem to immediately address all of these goals, there are many systems out there that are quite well suited to address particular problems. In particular, the areas of poverty, providing improved healthcare, improved agricultural practices and production, managing natural resources, and mitigation and adaptation to climate change. So first off, let's talk about global poverty. One of the 8 Millennial Development Goals established in 2000 was to reduce the number of persons living in poverty by 50%, with a goal of doing this by the year 2015. The efforts were more than successful. Not only was the goal met, but it was met 5 years early. Nevertheless, at least 10% of the world's population still live in poverty. And with the economic contraction due to COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, we expect to see an additional up to 580 million more persons join this group. So a primary role for artificial intelligence in combating poverty is by providing efficient techniques for identifying severely impoverished areas at a fine-grained level. Traditional methods of doing so are costly and time-consuming and typically result in a very small sample size. One of the ways that AI can assist in this matter is by analyzing what are called call data records, or CDRs. The CDRs can be analyzed to determine the level of economic activity in a given region. Unfortunately, one of the potential pitfalls is access to this data. CDRs are considered proprietary data by the cellular providers, and therefore it is often difficult for governments and NGOs to get ready access and continual access to that data. One of the most promising techniques is the analysis of satellite imagery. Satellite images can provide very fine-grained data, distinguishing between paved roads and dirt roads, between wood, metal, asphalt, canvas, plastic, or earthen roofs of buildings. Satellite images also showed night lights, right? Images taken at night. And these night lights are strongly correlated with economic activity. Now, AI techniques such as those just mentioned allow governments and NGOs to develop detailed and accurate poverty maps, and this information then allows for more targeted interventions to serve local needs. The second area we want to discuss is improvements in healthcare. Now, certainly a healthy population is necessary for a society to thrive, and we will look at several areas in which artificial intelligence can assist in providing improved healthcare. First would be mobile phone apps that can connect isolated regions with medical advice. There are several apps already in use. For example, Babylon Health in the UK and Ada Health in Germany have developed these sort of personal health assistants to allow you to connect with medical advice remotely. Other applications allow users to get specialty diagnostic advice. For example, Sekmata in Indonesia is being used to diagnose cataracts. It's a simple technique. The user takes a photo on their phone. That information is then analyzed, and the user is provided with contacts to providers in their area if there's any sign of disease or something that needs to be looked at more carefully by a specialist. In the area of oncology, AI-based diagnostics are seeing success rates comparable to that with trained doctors. This allows for patients to maybe go to a local clinic, have an image done, even though there may not be a specialist readily available to analyze that. These images can be analyzed remotely, or they can be analyzed by an AI system and diagnoses made more quickly. Likewise, in the area of pathology, we're seeing the same kind of results where AI systems are able to make diagnoses with success rates approaching that of trained physicians. Certainly, when combined with the analysis of a trained physician, the success rates are higher than either AI or human diagnoses independently. Another area is that of the recognition of rare diseases. Certain diseases present with specific phenotypical aspects, and they can be detected early with applications like the Face2Gene app developed in the US. Here, an image of the individual's face is analyzed by the system. It compares that with a large library of phenotypes and can help identify congenital disorders early, allowing for either earlier intervention and hopefully for an improved quality of life and productive life for the individual going forward. Third area where artificial intelligence can have direct impact on development goals is that of agricultural practices and production. Improved agriculture for both domestic use and for exportation is a key for successful development. And in particular, it's important that there's adequate food supply for the local population, as food insecurity issues can lead to unplanned migration, civil unrest, famine, and other severe social issues. AI systems are particularly suited to analyzing massive data sets and finding patterns and making decisions and predictions. These systems can analyze data describing crop and soil conditions collected by unmanned drones, by remote sensors. They can look at weather data, images of insects, and other crop pests. And these are just some examples of the various apps that I'm showing you. These are all apps that require no more than a smartphone to access. Fourth area is that of natural resource management. Efficient management of their natural resources, including intelligent land use, forestry, wildlife, and fishery management, are necessary for maintaining a sustainable economy. Right? Many systems are linking management tools with natural resource models and therefore helping to provide more timely and efficient actions. One such application is that of intelligent geographic information systems. These capture data on multiple levels. They find relationships, identify patterns in land use, and allow local leaders to make more informed decisions. That's important because we want to be able to model the transitions between vegetated, shrub, crop, wetland, urban, and industrial uses, taking into account physical variables such as mountain ranges, rivers, coastlines, but also man-made restrictions if you want to have protected areas or other well-defined or lines of demarcation. For wildlife management, artificial intelligence systems can be used to model wildlife behavior that allows to better management of the herds. And for many developing countries, wildlife forms the basis not only of a traditional food source, but also for potential ecotourism industries. Of particular concern for many developing nations is the protection of their fisheries. Fisheries supply millions of jobs and a major part of the food supply for many of these developing countries. And artificial intelligence can provide valuable tools for sustainable management, including collecting information through satellite imaging, smart buoys, mobile technologies, and unmanned surface and aerial vehicles. That data can all be integrated and analyzed by an AI system to look for patterns in both legal and illegal harvest and help provide predictions and recommendations to effectively manage their fisheries for the future. Fifth issue that artificial intelligence can address is that of climate change. Now, climate change is certainly a threat to the developing world. Low-lying areas are endangered by increases in sea level, potentially flooding inhabited areas, causing saltwater incursion into agricultural lands, and we expect also to see an increase in infectious diseases. However, the good news is that mitigation efforts worldwide actually will help all countries. There are many possible applications of AI to help mitigate the output of greenhouse gases. And while these may be primarily implemented in the industrialized developed world, the benefits will be felt equally throughout the developing world as well. In this case, it is the adage that a rising tide floats all boats is indeed true. Now, while there are certainly several positive potential applications of artificial intelligence in addressing the global development goals, there still exist barriers to the implementation. Some of these are physical, some of these are cultural and political. So let's take a look at a few. In particular, the most obvious is the lack of a widespread digital infrastructure in much of the developing world. Now, many of the proposed solutions that we've talked about, or proposed applications of artificial intelligence that we've talked about, require at a bare minimum access to cellular service, or perhaps access to the internet. Okay. There are projects that are working to address this, and for example, O3b Networks is working to establish a worldwide system of satellites to provide broadband services to remote areas in the developing world. That will be hugely important. Also, one of the issues that we need to consider is that much of the work being done in developing artificial intelligence systems is being done in the global north, in the developed world, and it's being done with an eye towards markets in the developed world. Right? However, these systems can be quickly adapted and to respect both the specific needs and the cultural norms of the developing world. In particular, many of the tools for AI development are being made available through free libraries like Google's TensorFlow library. These tools require a minimum amount of specialization and a minimum amount of equipment, which makes AI development a very real possibility for programmers in the developing world. So not only could pre-existing systems be adapted, but local programmers could create systems specific to their region and their needs. And then finally, there are some political considerations that need to be taken into account, because any development project is clearly going to be impacted both by the domestic and international politics of the nation in which we're working. Okay, governments and NGOs have to work around issues of civil war, potential terrorist activity, and just a general suspicion of foreign influence and interference, some of which is a holdover from the colonial era in these countries. Some of it is a result of the exploitation of the labor and natural resources of these countries by the developed world. Okay. However, it is hoped that if these barriers to implementation can be overcome, that artificial intelligence can potentially lead to reverse the traditional dynamic of the developed world, exploiting the labor and resources of the developing world, into one in which the developing world is now benefiting from the labor and the technology of the developed world, and thereby improving their overall economic potential for the future. I think we'll stop there. I want to thank you all and welcome any discussion.